Oh, it's Mike's. I was gonna leave it. Anyway, could have missed that. Mike's got it on it. Okay. Well, anyway, it's Friday afternoon, and once again we're here for Prodigy Lifetime. Obviously, you're not going to do the whole.
No, that's
JoJo's thing,
not mine.
But anyway, it's an interesting month, and we're going to cover stats today, which is a little bit kind of rephrasing things because of some vacation times being had, obviously, and we're going to look at some of the stats that are going to be impacting. Well, that impacted July, because everybody knows that our July stats run into
August.
Yes, into August. So the August reports the July numbers, so it's always a month behind.
Yeah.
And then, but it's an interesting one. I'll tell you that from this has been an unusual year, and it continues its unusual trend. And most recently, like we saw last year, rates have really started to increase the last few months, and basically really the last month has been really a little tough on rates. So, and we've seen like a little taper down in activity. We don't know how that's going to pan out though, but they're doing their best to kind of put the stops on the real estate market for sure. I think it's definitely something that's in the cards for the real estate market. It's like what is going on with the Fed and what they're doing with like the rates and how they're going to kind of change things up, like moving forward. What is the plan? Yeah. And it's not good. I'll tell you that. They're not, economics of scale are not great. So let's start. Let's begin. And you have some questions for me, obviously.
Yes, I do. So I'll just dive right into it. So first I want to talk about the month's inventory.
Yes. This is where I get my glasses.
Yeah. So the year-over-year difference is down 2.64. Now, what external factors do you think contributed to the decrease of the month's inventory?
Okay,
year
so
over year?
Yeah, I think where we're having the decrease. So one of the interesting things is the market has shown some really significant resilience. Let's call it for what it is. The market's been extremely resilient throughout the last year. So and to kind of give you, it's still a bit higher than it was in 2022 when it was 55 days. It's now down to 77 days, current days on the market, cumulative days on the market, cumulative days, and then it down from 84 the prior month. So it has decreased 8% from the month prior. But we've seen this happen throughout the last quarter. Month inventory continues to decrease. That means the rate of sales that are happening in the market currently are they're not occurring with like inventory like coming on the market as quickly as home sales are happening. So what's happening is we're slowly seeing this, but I do see it being more of a supply side issue. So the supply side, which is like the amount of houses going on the market, you do the stats every other day, yes, pretty much. And when you say new listings are on the market, you're always seeing that decrease, decrease. So yeah, it's always a decrease in the amount of new listings coming on the market. So while I like to say it's like indicative of a positive, this has kind of been strange in the sense that the volume of sales has not really been there to kind of say, okay, month's inventory numbers are coming down. Is it indicative of a healthy market? The answer is, I will tell you off the bat, I think that's going a little too far, that the market's necessarily healthy. And depending on where your role is in this, whether you're a buyer or seller, is going to matter a whole bunch. So we're really, when it comes down to that current days on the market, which is now at 77, coming down from 84 in June. And this has come down over the last quarter. Now it is up 40% from a year ago.
Yes.
Right? So
Yeah.
40% increase from a year ago. So, I mean, you have seen this 40% increase really, it's showing up. It's definitely showing up, is that you're seeing decreases happening all the time. Like this past year. So over the year, the tail end of this year is really kind of like saying, I think though we may be coming to an end on that. We'll get into the reasons why. I think that our prices will be coming down somewhat, a little bit from here because of interest rates. There's no doubt about it. I see that kind of happen. But we'll get into that later. So let's get into the next question.
Why did properties take longer to go under contract this year, like from the 40% increase year over year?
Okay, so I mean, one of the things is they take a little bit longer to go under contract because I think there's a little bit more uncertainty in the marketplace. So I think when you talk about the marketplace in general, there's uncertainty in the marketplace right now. And I still think that it's what we call a low volume, low inventory market, which is not something that's typical of real estate markets. I can tell you this, it's just so unusual to have this happen. When you talk about real estate market, you talk about like appreciation of value, and we're going to get into that median sale price in a little bit, because I do think that it's on Staten Island, it's kind of come down a bit, but it's not indicative of anything substantial to be like that we're having any type of like market meltdown, but it's down a little bit. But I do think as far as like why it's taking a little bit longer for houses to maybe come into contract is just more buyer uncertainty, and interest rates are being monitored carefully. So when that house goes under contract, that's when a buyer could lock in. So the house has to be under contract. I think there's a couple of programs where you can lock in ahead of that, but for the most part, you can't lock in your mortgage rate, and sometimes people kind of wait to see when the best rate's going to come in, and they'll lock it in on a contract. So that's really that's really the key parameter there.
Are there certain price ranges or neighborhoods experiencing longer days on the market?
I think when we talk about neighborhoods and like things like that, I do think one of the things is there's not specific neighborhoods, and so we'll kind of like redress this a little bit and to say that there are external parameters and some internal ones with the house in particular. So when you see a market like this, which is kind of slow to begin with, I mean, it's a low volume, low inventory market. It's slow, so the movement is slow even though prices aren't. The external factors like location will matter precipitously more in a market like this than when the market's hot and flooded with a lot of buyers at once, and you have this big like influx of buyers coming in, and they don't pay attention to like those as much as the external factors. So like if the street is high traffic location, or there is there's something about the dynamics of the particular house, where it's located in the neighborhood, that people just would not find aesthetically pleasing. These are the types of things. Or a house is not necessarily well kept. So like a house is not really well kept, or like one of those handyman special type houses, a lot of people won't delve into that as quickly in a market that's kind of seeing this slowness, or this kind of like slow treading of the market, of the buying process. They're just taking it easy. So it's not so much that we're really looking at like big changes, like in terms of like based on like neighborhood differences. From New York to New Jersey, a different story. New Jersey has fared better with the rate interest rate hikes than we have here in Staten Island. And that's another, that we'll get into New Jersey next week.
Yes, fun.
Yeah, you look good. Don't be so excited about that.
Anyway, thank you for answering that.
Sure.
Sale to list price ratio. It's down 2.64%. So right now it's 96. And last year was 98.6.
Okay. So when we look at sales to list price ratio, there's a percentage of a discount a seller's willing to give on a house. It's up from last year. And it's up from June. So it was 94 in June, and it's gone to 96 now. This has been indicative, but it is down from 98 last year. So there's been a bounce here. I talked about this last week, whether what we're experiencing, what we call in markets is the dead cat bounce. Yeah, I talked about it quickly on the other. It's like the market kind of like a lot of times the markets experience a quick dip in prices or other stocks. So it's like, okay, we reach the bottom kind of quickly. People get excited that the price is down. So the market experiences like a blip or a pop up right after that, and then it falls from there.
Okay.
So that's like, the funny thing is that when I watch some YouTube channels, and it's like they don't analyze markets. They analyze other markets like that. They don't analyze real estate like that. And I think there's the potential for that. There is some potential for what I call, if anybody knows what it's called, the dead cat bounce, which is it recovered from a really quick, precipitous decline. It was really declining last year. When you talked about December numbers, November numbers last year, it was daunting. It was not a very easy market to navigate. So we saw that dip. But it came back up. People felt like prices were dipping and people were getting maybe a discount, and then a couple of people flooded to the market. So the market sees a little increase, and then, the rate factors, and then there's not as many buyers ready, willing, and able after that bounce to really continue the trend upward. Let's see what happens. It's too soon to tell. We've seen this quarter. This quarter has seen an increase across the board in positive numbers for sellers. Not necessarily buyers. They're not too excited about. Every time they watch a YouTube channel and say that the end is in, it doesn't seem to ever be in. And I right now it's a supply-demand curve thing, and I don't, and I think we'll sum up this at the end, and we'll talk about where that goes. So we'll get to the next question.
Do you think sellers are starting with higher initial listing prices, or buyers becoming more aggressive with their negotiations?
I think it's a combination of both. I think that some sellers are definitely overzealous with asking too high prices based on the current market conditions. But I understand that every house needs a specific valuation modeling that's very understands the house. So even if two houses necessarily sit side by side with one another, if the interior or the layout's better in one house than the other, it can make a difference in price. Sometimes as much as 4 to 5%. It can. And I think people kind of make the mistake to say, "Oh, the market, it's this and that." So when we look at when you look at it from the perspective of where homeowners should set their prices, experience will take shape, and it's also like situationally where that house is in terms of proximity to certain transportation and things like that. So there are some houses that could get exceedingly high prices even in this kind of market environment, and some of them it won't make sense. And you'll see things and you'll shake your head and you'll be like, why this house over this house? Why? It's hard to say off the bat, but a lot of people will turn around and tell you it's just something that I don't see a lot of headway being made as far as where sellers necessarily getting the most by listing it high or buyers getting the best negotiation. Time on the market will definitely be a precedence for negotiations. The longer your house is on the market, the more aggressive the bidding will be. So it's important that houses that linger a bit do not necessarily fare well in this market environment. So I do think that it really depends on the parameters. It's a very interesting market, folks. I'm going to tell you, it's not easy to kind of like every single valuation that you come up with could be substantially up or down, depending on a lot of things. Depending on how a property is marketed is a key. You should know that.
Yeah.
How a property is marketed is definitely indicative of how much you a person may or may not get.
Yes.
So it's like you better have a good grounding on like how everything is going to appear to home buyers, because you don't have as many of them to attract, and you better attract them off the bat quickly and make sure that the house is like showcased in a way that's going to generate the most activity quickly. You don't want a house sitting on the market 2-3 months and start, doing what I call the wind down, and that's not a positive thing when you start doing price reductions. It's just not. So that's that.
All right.
I'm going to get on to the next one.
Medium sale price.
Here we go.
Here
we go.
So that is sorry, there's so many papers.
It's okay.
This one. So year over year, it decreased 2.54.
Yes. 2.5%.
Yeah.
And down 0.3% from the month previous.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean overall the prices of homes on Staten Island on the median side have decreased by 2.5%. So prices are down 2.5%. Is that it? I believe it's negligible. So again, what I'm saying is that there'll be some houses that experience it more drastically than others based on the parameters I talked about. Location-based things specifically will determine like how much in effect a house will get. So I do think in markets that are slow like this, you do get some fall off on this, what I call the difficult to sell inventory. So that's where I think it's a little bit, that number 2.5% is definitely down, and it continues. I do want to mention the fact that I don't think you're going to ask that question, but the pending average listing is down in July. So this isn't, I don't think we bridged that one, right?
No.
But I have to mention that because the pending average listing, so that means that houses that are in contract, what the average list price is down $10,000 from last month. It's up from last year, but down from last month. So I like to say that's a good leading indicator. So it means that there is some, it looks like that the houses that were higher priced is probably suffering a little bit more than houses in the lower price range right now. So if you have a high-end house, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to average. So to give you the averages from June to 2023 to July 2023, 731,000. It's moved to 721,000, but it's up from last year, which was under 700. 698, 699 basically was the pending average list last year. So we were looking at it as a leading indicator. So it's showing some softness there. So I definitely think there may be a little bit more pain moving ahead. I just feel that way because of interest rates being as high as they are. There's no doubt about it. It will have a dampening effect on the market. And the real question is what happens next month. But anyway, on to the next one.
What factors contributed to the year-over-year decline in medium sale price?
Okay. I mean, the prevailing one is obviously interest rates being what they are is the major decrease there. So people are just not as active. So for the last 3 weeks, the National Association of Realtors published that buyer activity. That was good though. Good sound effect. The National Association of Realtors published that is the third straight week that buyer activity has declined. Mortgage applications have declined. These are, so interest rates will be the number one factor in the year ahead. Where we're going to pay attention to is whether this leads to defaults. That's something we'll be watching. But I'm going to give a good summation to all this at the end of it. So
Oh
we're going to
yeah,
have to wait for
the summer. Okay. With a significant decrease in active listings, so that's year over year, it's down almost 25%. Are homeowners holding off on selling due to the economic uncertainties?
Yeah.
Uncertainties.
Keri always has these tongue twisters with some of these words.
I do, sorry.
Sometimes she even does it with her own name.
I do. I,
That's the nerves.
yeah. Yes.
Goodness, if I get them on 10, I get to see my teeth.
I know, you do look tan.
It's like my teeth.
Yeah, your teeth.
It's like I see my face, I see my teeth.
Yeah, your teeth are so bright.
Colgate! No endorsement.
Not sponsored.
If you want to, I'll do something.
We've got a good marketing team here.
Yeah. I'm on Colgate.
Go right ahead. I have a lot here.
Yeah, you get, yeah. I don't want to keep. I'm going to keep you rolling. So let's get to that question.
Active listings decrease.
The active listings decrease, and that's going to continue. Yes. So the economics of the day are definitely weighing on the mind of sellers. So the report is that 60% of all homeowners have under a 4% mortgage. That have a mortgage under 4%. 60% of the market has under 4% or under. So 60% of the homeowners interest rates below 4%. So what's happening is sellers feel like, okay, if I'm going to move, I got to take out an interest loan at 7.1% to 7.2, and I think some of it's, I don't know how much higher it can go from there, but 7.2% versus maybe at the top 3.9%, you're really looking at like a big stark difference for homeowners in price. So yeah, I mean, I think that's the so you are seeing sellers pull back based on the fact that like costs don't necessarily reflect where they're going to go. But I do think at the end of the day, some people's equity positions enough to really put them in a place where like their mortgage rate wouldn't be so reflective of like the price because of so much. There is still substantial equity in the properties. You're seeing a lot of that. It's not like they're taking a mortgage on a higher balance. Your hair looks great, Keri, by the way.
I like it in front. Thank you.
I was going to say, thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you.
It looks fine. It's very good. I promise. Nobody's going to notice the little fluff out here.
I noticed it. Okay.
I know. It's
Not
like a mirror.
Yeah.
So it's like looking at it, it's like, okay, what's wrong with my...
Not touching it anywhere.
I got to tie your hands behind. She's going to deliver the statue to us like this.
Where were we?
Yes, we
Okay. Are there any macroeconomic factors that might be influencing Staten Island real estate market?
Yes.
Like the interest rates, employment shifts.
Well, I do think, yeah, I think the one thing that the Fed's trying to do is create unemployment, if you can believe it or not. That's a strange. They're like, we need to create unemployment to drop inflation. They want people to be poor, so you can't buy anything. And if you make enough people poor for not having employment, prices will come down for sure. So, and it's kind of interesting that they're basing some of their so the macroeconomic factor is the Fed's insistence on bringing nobody mentions the fact that out of control spending has a lot to do with inflation. So you can't just keep spending money and then expect, so we did the report last week, and like the economics of it is, the macroeconomic standing is that the U.S. Treasury is still pumping out tons of T-bills, and we keep running up deficits of 31 trillion. So I mean, the debt service is a contributing factor to inflation, because and this is one of these perplexing things, I don't understand how you're going to get rid of the debt service levels that we have and create unemployment at the same time. We talked about this last week in brief, that what they're trying to do is like 80% of the tax, 90% of the tax revenue comes from income taxes. So if you're going to create unemployment, you're definitely going to create a crimp in an already horrible financial management of the current federal government. It's just they're not. It's a real interesting situation. But yes, the macroeconomic picture right now, homeowners are pretty comfortable in their mortgages. They're not comfortable with prices, so inflation is definitely a consideration as far as grocery shopping and things like that. So these are all contributing factors. So I think that overall, though, I think that there's a degree of like calmness with the market. So if there's any bump downward, and that will happen, I think once they get past the economic data that says unemployment starting to rise. So a couple of things that I came across prior to this report was looking at what's kind of indicative is new job openings are down for the last year every month. So we're at the lowest level we've been since before the pandemic.
Really?
So what it is like they look at those factors to say, well, look at how many job openings are there. So it consistently on a slide downward. The trajectory definitely looks like so it's still on the plus side. So, but the trajectory is now it looks like it's on a down slope and will likely go into the negative. So I do expect some degree of like, there's gonna be some unemployment coming in the coming months. It's that when they look at job openings consistently on a decrease. So it means it's like 1.25 jobs for every person. That's like so that's what the current number suggests. It's like I don't believe half of this stuff because I just don't. It seems like there's something wrong with the numbers, to be honest with you. But I do think at the end of the day that the slope downward in the number of job openings is indicative that the job market's slowing pretty precipitously, and I don't see that. I don't see that sliding upward in the short term, because I think what's happening is AI is for one.
Yeah.
The thing that freaks you out the most.
Yeah, it does.
It's like the people are just they're scared of it, and I think at the end of the day, what's going to happen with AI taking jobs? So something that we've talked about. And basically lessening demand for products and services because people just don't have disposable income based on inflation. I think I did happen to see him. I'm gonna go back to TikTok. He's a port worker, and he said that now for the first time in a long time, he's like they're stocking up the amount of inventory that's staying at the port is so high now, saying that demand is. So it's kind of interesting. It's a ground level thing. But like he actually goes and like says that something's not right with the economy. He's like all the goods are staying at the terminal and not being moved to the stores. I mean, so the orders are not coming through as quickly. And he's saying this wasn't like this 6 months ago, 8 months ago. He says I've been seeing this increase. So he says the amount of containers that are actually not being shipped is actually indicative of the overall economic picture.
Oh my god! Wow.
So it's interesting. He does like an economics report from like the ground level because
Wow.
he can tell by how many imports are coming in from the things that are being left at the port, and they were never there. They weren't there months ago. He says they're stacking up so it means that the products have no places to go because they're not, people aren't buying as much.
That is really interesting.
It is. It was a cool. I forget what it is.
That is cool.
The Crane Man or something like that.
Yeah, we
he
gotta
does.
get his.
Yeah, it's really cool thing. So he does economics based on port activity. So he says something's wrong with the economics of things because things aren't moving from the port.
Wow, and you wouldn't. I mean, I'm not thinking of that. So that's cool that someone else.
It's a ground
noticed
level.
it.
Yeah. It's like at the ground level, so it's like what you're seeing at the store. It's like watching. So he's the front line of the goods and products. Is the goods and products that are coming in from overseas. They're just not finding a place, so there's no orders. The orders are down. I think we have a couple of Amazon. I think Ferris is an Amazon person. He says it's like and he said to me, he's like, it's definitely all people are not buying.
Really?
They just stop it. Not like you guys.
No.
They may keep the economy on a strong footing.
Oh
They just keep buying their clothes.
Oh, of course. Amazon Prime.
Did you do Prime Day?
I did. I got a lot of stuff from Prime and Prime.
What was your best product in Prime? It was all over TikTok, by the way.
Yeah,
What
I
I
know.
got.
That's how I knew what to get. I got,
There you go.
I got a really nice dress.
Okay.
Really nice. It was my favorite dress ever, but
well,
it was
maybe we'll see it. Maybe we'll see it in here one day.
Maybe.
We'll have to check the employee handbook on dress code.
No, it's
Just
good.
a joke.
It's good. Did you get anything from Prime Day? No.
No, I didn't. No,
Should've.
I'm in fasting mode. I just to get on it. I mean, I went to Atlantic City. I did the outlet thing.
Oh yes.
And his shirt comes courtesy of the outlets. So I mean, I got some good deals on the outlets in Atlantic City.
They're nice there.
Have you ever gone to them?
I've been once.
Just once.
Yes.
Oh, once you go, you're gonna be addicted. It's
Well,
definitely a shopping
It's like
ad.
a while ago. I went.
They got everything. Just.
I gotta tell my girls. We gotta.
Oh yeah, if you go, don't even spend on the gambling. Just go and buy the stuff. You'll almost feel depressed if you spend like $200 on a gambling table when you can go down the street.
I'd rather do that.
To go what's your
Shopping.
favorite store?
What is my favorite store?
Yeah, like at the mall.
At the mall, Staten Island Mall.
Yeah, just in general, is there a product?
I
know it's probably like Louis Vuitton, but
No, Kate Spade.
Okay, there's a Kate Spade outlet, so it's there.
I gotta go.
And they have a huge Kate Spade outlet there, so it's like really, really cool. But anyway, now we're talking about shopping.
I know, right?
And how Keri's going to help help the broader economy by spending more
I'll buy
as Amazon Prime.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh God. All right.
So what's that next question?
How does Staten Island market? Because we did Jersey stats last week.
Yes.
Right. How does the Staten Island market performance compare to the neighboring areas or the border New Jersey market during this same time period?
Yeah, I think. Okay. So New Jersey is still experiencing growth in terms of. So a lot of things we discussed last week is the Jersey market as healthy as it was as Staten Island. As Staten Island, the answer is that the sales to list price ratio in New Jersey when we did the report last month was still over 100%. So there's still bidding wars happening in certain, but I want to be cautious about what we say in terms of what the broader New Jersey market has to offer. So you have to be aware of as you move south of Freehold, things could change more rapidly. So it's like the end of a whip. I always say New York is always the end of the whip. It doesn't appreciate as much, or like this pen. Markets, the center of gravity is here. The market, as you move away from the center of gravity, so the New York market kind of stabilizes. these are the further you get away from New York, the more of the swing.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, a small swing this way means the pen, just to move the pen, this side swings higher and lower
Okay.
as you move further away from the city.
Yeah.
So that's usually what I call, this is indicative of many markets. So many markets will experience they'll experience a little bit more of a price shift quicker and more rapidly in certain instances than as you come closer to New York City, where the prices will fluctuate a little bit less. So there may be some parts in New Jersey that may see a pinch from the latest market, but I'm being texted. Okay.
All right. So this is kind of like a future question.
Yes.
What do you think the market's going to be like in the coming months based on this information?
Okay. This is the summation. We give our final, Your Honor, we're giving our final summation. We're giving the close. Okay, so this next year will be an interesting one for sure. What we're going to be watching is what the Fed does in the September FOMC meeting. Does it or doesn't it reflect the broader economic picture as far as inflation is concerned? There are some people putting out a 50% chance, more so as I say a 55% chance that they're going to raise rates another quarter point. It's a mistake. It's a big mistake. And I do think, you know, it's interesting. It's like we're going to create a little bit of you know, again, I do like the pause and I like to see what this rate did. It did do something. So let's not, I won't say you know, as time goes factor and I look at it, months inventory slowly coming down, meaning there may be still some inflationary pressures out there based on the housing data that we're suggesting here. Now, I just want to point this out. New Jersey's up, Staten Island's down, some slightly. I'm talking ever so slightly, so not like it's a negligible number here, 2.5% from last year. It was down as much as 4% when we did the stats back in February. So it was down 4%. It's recovered 2% of the 4%. So we're up from the actual, like, instead of year over year, if you do like from the year date, instead of year over year, we're actually up about 2% from February. So this latest rate hike is going to have some impact on prices, no doubt about it. Again, the 10-year treasuries have been up consistently. They've been trading at they touched a 19-year high last week. We're looking at those numbers carefully, but I do think that the year to come is going to be an interesting one for sure. I do think that you have to pay attention to that month's inventory number. Is it starting to creep up again? I think three things, my predictions are month's inventory will increase, will begin to increase in, beginning October. Again, pushing into November, December will be a little bit like last year. I think we're going to kind of see a little bit of a pullback again. Some of the markets, like I said, at the end of the tail, are going to experience a little bit more of a quicker or rapid decrease in prices. They accelerated quickly once again when the rate went down to 5.99, like in March, as they started to change back to, things started to kind of like go back in the other direction. But it's so important. I'm going to tell people this. You're going to see people make this mistake. There's too many people trying to time this thing out, and I think the mistake is, like, there's people say it's when's a good time to buy. I'm not going to be like the real estate people that are going to chirp the market up or down. It's like housing to a certain degree is not an option. Like, and quality of life, some people weigh some of the things that they already have versus what they should be in as like it shouldn't be increased or decreased. Like I wouldn't say increase or decrease. Their want or need to fulfill shouldn't be based on the fact that maybe I'm going to score an extra 1 or 2% here or there. Negligible amounts when you talk about where you live. I think that's where people kind of like, they try to time this. And everybody who should have timed it, so they bought into the market fear-mongering in March, when that's exactly the time when rates dropped to 5.99. So it went under 6%, the market accelerated quickly, and then it doesn't. And the type of market environment is, we call it it's highly volatile. Information's a lot faster. Real estate markets will move the rate of increase and decrease happens fast. So it's not like in the past where like, oh, the housing market, yes, it's a slower transactional process. The reason why, like, data doesn't necessarily match up with the current sentiments. But what you really want to look at is, does it or doesn't it make sense for that person to move? So I think if you're in the process of thinking of selling and you think about the rates, everything is usually going to pan out one way or another. If those rates decrease, the prices are coming up. The rates may decrease, the prices are coming up. I'm telling you, that's the type of market it is. We've seen that literally play out in the last quarter. Rates dropped, prices increased quickly. Recovery, quickly. So you're going to, there's no middle ground for this. So if you're in the process of selling, if those rates come down, let's just say December's rates come down to 5.5. You're going to see a flurry of activity, and people will miss the appreciation in that. I do think at the end of the day, like, you cannot time these things to the degree you want to. It does look, I'm not going to tell you it doesn't hurt to have someone who knows stats and data pricing a house to know where to fit this in, because you want to pay attention to leading indicators, you want to pay attention to month's inventory numbers, and you want to have a general feel for like do not go for this cliche stuff. There's a lot of cliches. A lot of them in real estate. You wouldn't know. Yeah. The market's doing great. Always doing great. You're never going to hear him say it's not doing great. Look, it's a market. And I always say, people, in markets, there are winners and there are winners. There's someone who buys and someone who sells. So someone's winning. We always look at the seller as the winner, and sometimes, it's not necessarily the seller. There's plenty of buyers that they feel like left out of the equation because it's like a battle for them. Yeah. They're like, hey, what about us? We got to pay this price. Yeah. When do we win? Yeah. When does the buyer win? They feel like they got to pay the high price. So it's like, can I ever own a house? But the big thing is that we're looking at prices to give you a recap of what's going on here, and I'll give you a quick rundown. So we're looking at the market has picked up, and this report from June to July, and obviously we're in August, but we're always a month behind because that's when the data reports. Yeah. So the difference between last month and this month, this is a third straight month. Average days in the market have decreased. It's now at 77. It is definitely up from last year at 40%. Months inventory, again, just at 4 last year. It's months inventory has risen a bit in July. So it's actually up for 4.74, which is not highly indicative of a good thing. So I think I may have touched that and maybe went in the wrong direction on that. It's up a little bit, but anyway, sales to list price ratio is currently at 96. That's up about 1.3% from the prior month in June. Okay, so we're looking at that. It's definitely something that you guys could pay attention to. That sales to list price ratio is one of those leading indicators that are telling you exactly what sellers are about to do. And I do think that at the end of the day, that's going to be the first thing you're going to see. That the next report we'll have is whether or not we're going to see a increase in or decrease in the sales to list price ratios. And
Yes.
again, a positive report for sellers, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that's a little bit off is the pending average listing is down a little bit. The average, the median sold price is down slightly, 0.31 from a month over month, and from year over year, 2.54, but up 2% from February. And that's pretty much where we're at. So basically a market that looks like the stock market, just bouncing around like this. So if you ask me, it's just like this. This up, down, up, down, up, down.
The bending cat?
No!
Oh.
No, that's a dead cat bounce.
The dead cat bounce, okay.
That's a term if you know Wall Street, that's a term.
I know.
So it's basically, it looks like the market really goes up high, comes down in a very cataclysmic fashion. People think it's the bottom. Buy, lift the market up, then there's not enough buys to return the favor. It sinks back down to a secondary low, and that's usually the bottom. Is that what's happening? That's the question here. That's the question. That happened. So that happened. So we did come down. For a real estate market to come down 5%, it's pretty notable. So we did come down almost 5%. Did we experience the bounce? That's something we're gonna have to watch for. It's possible. I'm not telling you it's not possible. It's possible. So let's see what happens. Oh, but there's just one thing. The sold listings. I want to just sold listings are down.
Yes.
19%.
Yeah.
So again, the market's just one of those things that haven't really fared too well. Sold listings are down month over month, 19%. But July, I mean, June is typically a hot month, but usually 20% decrease is pretty notable. At 298, when you go under that 300 mark, you start scratching your head a little bit. So not great. Mm-hmm. Not great there. Year-over-year difference is still 37% less sold real estate. So if you're in the real estate business, you're going to see a lot of antsy people. But only the strong survive in this one. But the one good thing is that Prodigy Real Estate, we've increased business year over year.
Yes.
In a market that's down.
Yeah.
Well, the market's down 40% less sold listings, and we're up about twice.
Wow.
100% from a company standpoint, that's a good thing.
Yes.
I think, right? Because Keri's now part of the team, and she's doing an amazing job.
Oh, thank you.
And she's throwing her hat into the ring on the lives, and she, as she gets done a few more, she'll become like a seasoned vet at this stuff. But anyway, that's our Friday report, and it is the conclusion, and without all the theatrics, you gotta pick up some of this theatrics. We need you to do like some of these things.
You want me to have like an outro? I'll have an outro.
You don't have to do it now. We won't put you on the spot.
Gonna make it.
For the next one, she will.
I will. Yeah.
She'll do the outro. So she did, yeah. But anyway, that is Prodigy Lifetime's stat video report for the month of July in August. All right. So anyway, have a great weekend.
Yes, you
Enjoy the rest of the sun, and we'll see you next week
for Jersey.
for New Jersey. It'll be good. I think New Jersey will be fine.
Yeah.
She's running to get out of that.
No.
Get it, Keri. Cut him off.
All right.
Take care, folks.
Bye, guys.